I was with my trolley going to, immigration or something, and I was looking around and I bumped into the back of Shah Rukh Khan's ankle, and I didn't know it was him because it was the back of him, and then all these people just sort of swamped me and him, and he turned around and looked to see who this was, and I was like, I'm so sorry, and then I realized who it was, and I was like, oh my God. But I am obsessed with Deepika Padukone, and I do watch a lot of clips on YouTube. I think she's just an amazing actress, and as a woman, I think she stands very strong and empowered, and is a very courageous woman to, speak out about issues. My mum is a Hindu, and so when you're talking about Ravana, we look at him as a god.
I heard your name, Nimmi, I knew that it must have had, some Indian connection. Now, the Indian connection obviously comes from Bollywood, because we all know about Bollywood actor Nimmi. So why don't you tell us, has this been sort of, also taken from that name?
Yes, it has. My dad, there's a long name here called Nirmala or Nimali. And so I'm always asked, what's the longer version of your name? But I was just named Nimmi. And because my dad, was obsessed with Nimmi, the actress in India, and Tanuja also, because that's my second name.
Oh, that's a second name. No wonder that's why you're in Bollywood. I think all thanks to your parents, to your dad.
It was quite ironic that I became an actress, actually, because I had no idea till much later.
So you actually grew up watching Bollywood films. You must have seen something, that Tanuja had starred in, or Nimmi, was part of.
I grew up in England. We moved there when I was about 4 or 5. And so I never really got to see a lot of Bollywood films. But I am obsessed with Deepika Padukone. And I do watch a lot of clips on YouTube. I think she's just an amazing actress. And as a woman, I think she stands very strong and empowered, and is a very courageous woman to, speak out about issues to do with women. So I have a lot of respect for her.
So Deepika Padukone, had in fact spoken about depression. That was one issue that a lot of people, are not really comfortable discussing. Would you want to share something, if not, this particular issue, maybe some other issue that sort of resonated with you?
I mean, depression definitely plays in my life. I think, it's something that we shouldn't hide. A lot of people have depression. And even during lockdown, there was a tendency to feel a little low. But I have an 8-year-old son, and because of him, since he was born, actually, to be honest, I haven't been like that since then, because you always have to be on it for your son or your daughter. So it's just been a really strange turnaround for me, having a child in my life.
So was there a phase, when you were feeling a little low, maybe, before you, had your son, was there ever a phase when you actually felt that, you were depressed and you possibly needed help?
I think when my father died, was the time when things completely changed for me. My father was and is an extremely important person in my life. In fact, I never put my money in the bank when I was a teenager, when I was even in my 20s and working. He would keep my money and he would keep all my accounts. Like, he was the only person I trusted. And so when he passed away, it really hit me, and it took a very long time to get over it. And I think that was the time that I felt extremely low. I left my job, I stayed at home. I didn't want to see people. I got offered an amazing job in Sweden to, work on documentaries, which is another part of my life. And I came back in a week because I couldn't really function. And I realized that it takes a long time to get over someone's death, especially someone like a father, and so it's, I'm in a much better place now. I've learned to live without my dad. But yeah, I think I went through quite an emotional turmoil during that time.
Now we'll come to the much talked about film, the much anticipated film as well. Deepa Mehta's Funny Boy. And to tell us, how exactly did you get the role for Deepa Mehta's Funny Boy? What was the journey like? I mean, were there any auditions? How did you get to know about it? How were you selected?
I found out much later, after I actually finished filming, that Shah himself had seen me in a couple of local language films here, and also a Tamil film that I had done for a Tamil director called Subha Sivakumaran that had gone to Berlin. And so he had suggested that Deepa audition me. And so she emailed me 2 years before we started filming, actually. And I did a couple of auditions. She auditioned me to see if, I could take direction from her, etc. And then she liked my audition, but she's like, I need to meet you. And it was a crazy time. I was off to England to do publicity for a show that I was in. And she was arriving that same day from Toronto. And we literally met for like half an hour before I had to fly out. But as an actor, you do make an effort. I put a sari, and I went into this hotel as if I wear sari all the time. And I had to put it myself because there was no one to dress me. I mean, I can put a sari myself, but not in the glamorous way that, a stylist would, I guess. But we met, we had tea together, and she said, you're the one. But it took 2 years since then, for it to come to fruition.
So what was your first, thought about Deepa? When you hadn't met, maybe you only watched her films. What was your first impression about Deepa Mehta, the filmmaker?
So as you say, I have watched, I think, all her films, and even Layla, which is on Netflix, because I am a huge fan of Deepa Mehta's. But it was Fire. When I watched Fire, it resonated so much with me, and it was so empowering. And I was like, I want to work with this female director. It had come on in the cinemas here, and I happened to be working here at the time, and we were able to have a women-only screening of the film, which is huge, as you must understand, in this region, to be able to do that. So I have always wanted to work with her. It was a dream to do it. So when I got to meet her, I was pretty blown away. But she's so simple, she's so humble, that she just puts you at ease. It's like she's making a film for the first time every time, because it's amazing. It's as much as it's a learning process for the actor, she's learning too. She's on that journey with you.
Yes.
So it was quite special for me.
The film Funny Boy represents, Funny Boy has now been selected, as the official Canadian film to be representing the country when it comes to Oscars, in 2021. What exactly does that mean to you? I mean, that's huge recognition.
I mean, apart from the film, I think growing up as a little girl, wanting to be an actor, not realizing how hard it is and that it's a real cutthroat business sometimes, you have that dream, and it's always been one of my dreams to, have a film at the Oscars. So in that, it was pretty mind-blowing to be, Canada's representation. But also it's the passion and the hard work that we've all put in, from cast to crew, actually from crew to cast, because they start the process, don't they? And what a family we became during the whole process, and that we still are. It's an extremely special and humbling moment for us.
In fact, I was reading one of the interviews where he had said that, it's very sad that Sri Lankan rights are still relevant. You just recently mentioned that. Why didn't you say something? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? People haven't really been able to forget, and, it's still relevant. I mean, how do you see this?
I mean, it's not that the Sri Lankan riots are relevant. The issue of the conflict and why it happened is still relevant, because even though the war is over, I mean, the Tamil people still, have these issues, whether they be in the diaspora around the world or whether they be here. It's still ongoing. Nothing has been resolved.
Yes. Yes.
So, yes. And from a global, universal perspective, what happened in the film, Black July and the 83 riots, it's something that sadly, even though it happened in the 70s and 80s, is still relevant today, not just here in Sri Lanka, but internationally in countries all over the world. People have experienced war and conflict and death and being an asylum seeker, going to another country as a refugee, and now the stigma of all that in the countries that they end up in is horrendous. There's such a lack of understanding, especially especially in Europe, in countries like England and America. There's such a lack of understanding about why people are fleeing their countries, not because they think it's going to be a better place. It's because they're fleeing for their lives. Right. So, these are things that a story that was set in the 70s and 80s it's still so relevant now.
Have you heard about the name Saif Ali Khan?
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
So he's sorry?
Actor Saif Ali Khan?
Actor. Indian actor Saif Ali Khan. Kareena Kapoor's husband.
Oh, yeah, I've watched some of his Bollywood films because, those days,
Those days. When you were young. Okay. So, he had recently mentioned that he's doing a project, Adi Purush. And he had recently mentioned that, Ravana is a very human, that in his project, he's looking at Ravana as a very human person. And for which he also had to issue an apology because of, you know the interpretation of Ravana. What do you have to say on that?
Well, it's interesting that you brought this up because I'm a writer as well, and I'm working on a project to do with Sri Lanka, which is an animated TV series based on a book by an amazing British Muslim Sri Lankan writer. And we also had this issue of using the character Ravana in the film, in the show. And for me, I felt that when you're talking, my mum is a Hindu, and so when you're talking about Ravana, we look at him as a god, and in a sense, we need to show that respect. So it's important that we address those issues, especially in this sort of global village that we live in, where there are bars that have Pullayar, Ganesh statues in a bar where people are drinking, and they have Buddhas, etc. And I find that disrespectful. And so in the same way, I have nothing against Saif Ali Khan. I think he's amazing, and I think he's a fabulous actor. But my own personal interpretation of using these Hindu mythology, but gods that people worship, and I think we need to respect that and respect that in our own social sort of spheres. So.
Right. You're part of the film industry. You work with Deepa Mehta. I'm sure you've had your meetings with other Bollywood stars as well. Have you ever met Shah Rukh Khan ever?
Well, I mean, I've met him at the airport in Bombay.
What exactly?
When well, I'm a bit of a klutz. I'm always called like Mr. Bean or, oh my God, Jim Carrey does that. You should be making money off what you do, because I'm so clumsy. And so I was with my trolley going to, immigration or something, and I was looking around and I bumped into the back of Shah Rukh Khan's ankle, and I didn't know it was him because it was the back of him. And then all these people just sort of swamped me and him, and he turned around and looked to see who this was, and I was like, I'm so sorry. And then I realized who it was, and I was like, oh my God. It was one of those really embarrassing moments where you don't want to share that story, Divya. But I but he was.
Why didn't you take a selfie? Why didn't you take a selfie then, right then?
I don't even know whether they had selfies then. It was at the height of his career. I had gone to see my best friend because she just had a baby. And so it was all, all that young time, that period of young time. I keep aging myself. But yeah, it was just one of those moments that you...
Any other fangirl moment that you would like to discuss?
Fangirl, well, what do you mean, in Bollywood or anywhere?
Yes, with Bollywood actors.
With Bollywood, because I was going to say I met Prince by accident again.
Okay, no, Prince the singer. All right. Yes. Okay.
I'm a massive fan of Prince, more than anyone else in the world. And we were in a club in San Francisco, in Santa Monica, and he happened to be there. But it was one of those really small clubs where I was just wearing, I hadn't even brushed my hair. It was one of the clubs where you just got to listen to the music and chill. And then he was there, looking amazing in a suit and trilby. And I don't know what came over me. I honestly don't. I mean, my husband, I went up and stood next to him and started to dance. And my husband just grabbed the back of my shoulders and went, don't do this. He goes, let's go and stand over here and we can just look at him. So, yeah, I don't know why you're making me tell you all these embarrassing stories.
Tell us. You know, did anything happen with Shabana Azmi? I read that.
Huh?
Did anything happen with Shabana Azmi? I read that somewhere.
Oh, well, Shabana Azmi and I ended up working together in a TV series that I'm a regular of for British TV called Good Karma Hospital. And when I found out that she was, you know, going to be one of the main characters in a couple of episodes, I was just on it. I was in the green room where we all sit and just like chatting to her and trying to be cool. And then eventually I was like, do you think we can get a selfie? And she was so sweet. She was like, of course we can, of course you can. I mean, for me, meeting her was amazing, but also what a dignified lady. What a dignified lady. So it just made it even more special. That's, by the way, on Facebook and Instagram.
Any Indian director that you would like to work with? Any Indian film that you watched and you thought that, oh, I should do this?
You know what? I'm a big fan of Konkona Sen. I watched her latest movie, which was fantastic. It had so much depth. And I think she has a real understanding of working with actors. I would love to work with her. I met her once many years ago at a film festival in Fukuoka, and we had such a wonderful time together. And we're still in touch. But that's absolutely not why I'm saying this. But I think it's really interesting working with female directors too.
Thank you so much, Nimmi. It was really lovely interacting with you and having all those anecdotes, being shared. It was really lovely. Thank you.
I'm gonna Thank you.